guitar friends, we're having a good time tonight and today and tomorrow for breakfast. We're listening to Billy Strings and Marcus King do Summertime, the Gershwin classic. They're trading licks. They're playing Billy acoustic. They're playing electric, a beautiful telly as far as I recall from Marcus. They're at Carter's Vintage Guitars here in Nashville. We're going to learn about how Billy and Marcus phrase, the differences in the phrasing style, and this beautiful, mysterious chord progression that masterfully mixes the major and the minor. We think of it as minor. You know, it opens up with that epic summertime. It's real like kind of smooth and classic and just sort of sultry, but it switches to major. We're going to dig into that and more. So cool. Just two guitars. Marcus coming in with a melody. All right. Let's take a breather right there before we go any further, and we'll just get a sense of what's going on here. Now, I am by no means a through and through jazzer, so my apologies in advance. You know, if there's any things here that seem like that's not, well, I'm going to approximate. And I would venture to say that both of these players have incredible versatility, but they probably both feel a little bit more fully at home, you know, bluegrass for Billy Strings and, you know, all sorts of genres that surround that, and the folk and the pop and the jam scene. And then Marcus, similar kind of thing. If they had a Venn diagram, Marcus would have like all the blues and the funk and the soul and all sorts of things that they can stretch into. But, you know, maybe they're more comfortable than I am with jazz, but we're going to do our best to approximate and maybe catch some key things that are important about just shifting the tonality of playing the E minor. We're going to get into looking at the full minor scale. A lot of times we just sort of take the minor pentatonic and limit ourselves to that. But out of the gates, we've got, let me see if I got these showing up here. Okay. So we got just very simplified version of the chords here. And I see different voicings that they're using as they go through. So it does this walking bass line, right? With that sort of perfect swing feel there. So that the bass line itself is your clue right there. You got that E minor, and you got that F sharp. Now you could play an F sharp diminish, or you could just do some kind of a minor 7. I see Marcus kind of plays that. So let's just, for now, I know this might not be exactly theoretically correct, but let's just say F sharp minor 7. If you wanted to just kind of play that as a passing tone. We'll sort of play the simplified version of these chord changes. So E minor, or maybe a F sharp diminish, and then the G, then back down. It's all about that walking bass, right? So let me show you what I mean. That the chords are important, the tonality is important, but really it's that feel. And kind of what I'm doing, what I see Billy playing, is that he's almost sort of grabbing that D over F sharp voicing right there. But it's that movement in the low end that makes it do what it does, right? So that's that first time through. It does that twice. And then it goes to an A minor, and you can make that an A minor 7. It holds that for a good long time, and then it goes to a B7. And you could like make that a B7 sharp 5. But if we just sort of block out the main kind of colors as they go through. And now let's go back and listen to a little bit more what Marcus is doing in terms of his phrasing. What maybe he's adding in terms of like the regular minor pentatonic, and then he throws in some sauce that stretches it out to the full minor, right? So cool. So like bare bones. And what's great is that as they get further into it, they're going to be trading the roles of who plays rhythm and who plays lead. And that's the real seamless kind of transition of a couple pros just chilling, right? Just even right there in that opening part, to see what Marcus is doing. He's playing some variation here of these kind of like shell chords, right? Or so just to spell that out, if we've got this E right here, that grab the right fret, sometimes I get it wrong. So that E, F sharp, and the G. So that's the movement of our bass line, right? And then if we spell up the minor third, and then the major third, right? So we've got that. So just those two notes right there, the root and the third of each of those chord changes, gives us some character, some flavor. Now what we're adding here as we go by is we're adding the 7 of each chord. So that makes it a E minor 7, F sharp minor 7, and then the G major 7, right? You might see that full major 7 shape there. But just those pieces make it nice and airy, and he does a little... So he sort of grabs up there, which would be like the 6 or the 13. It's as much about the feeling of how he's playing it as it is about like the actual particular notes, right? So that melody, right? So just right there, the attitude to the phrasing is, and apologies if I mess up the melody at all, but like I'm just sort of going by ear. He's holding down the melody, then he's playing a fill, right? So if I play along with, and then he plays, right? So that kind of undulating, like play the melody, then play a fill really comes in handy. Watch, he does it again right here. Melody, starts playing a fill. So he's all about playing the fill and the melody back and forth, yeah. So something that I'll show you right away that he's introducing, even when he's playing fills and kind of playing some of his usual like sort of favorite blues runs, is that he's bringing in the 9th. The 9th is going to add this. So I would recommend, even when you're just sort of playing blues, if something leans more to the minor blues side of things, let's spell it down here in this like open position so you can really see all the dots. And so that's like your like wide open E minor pentatonic, right? Consider that your skeleton, the sort of shell of things. And you've got your roots, you got your E, and your E. This note that we're adding right here is the 9. And then you can just see the 9. It's also considered the 2. You know, that's the way that we spell it. It's a 9 when it's an extension in a chord and voiced up here above. So anywhere you would have a root, you can slide up to that 9. And it creates that half step thing going on right there. It adds a little more of that minor, like the full minor mystery to it. Let's hear Billy. Nice melody. Listen, sorry to interrupt, but listen again real quick to this switch over and how they each prepare, because this is as much about the conversation between two masterful musicians as it is about the hot licks. Because if one of them wasn't ready to take over the soloing and the other wasn't ready to handle the rhythm, they'd drop the ball, but they're not going to do that. So just watch them and notice how they get ready to do that switch. 2, 3, 4. Right, that slide down Marcus. Gets to that downbeat real good. Some harmonics really cool. All right, then they're into the vocals. So what's so cool about both of them is that they're mixing between melody and then they're playing a fill, and the fills are usually relying on blues with an added level of the full minor. So listen again. So check out real quick. He does that. That's that, but that. So he's kind of spelling out an E minor 9, right? Beautiful chord to have in your repertoire. And that's kind of one of those really cool, mysterious chords to end on. Like if you're playing a song like this, that's, you know, like featuring the E minor sound, as you reach the end, you do like a big suspension on the B7, and then that would be like a really nice introduces that kind of like, ooh, people wait for the applause moment. It's great. Blues. All right, let's listen to this singing. Love it.
Summertime.
Awesome.
And the living is easy. Fish are jumping. The cotton is high.
So they're both supporting the melody
Your pappy's
and just playing rhythm, right?
And your mama's good looking. Hush, little baby, honey, don't you cry.
And the way they're playing it, you know, I don't know if this is like, I love that they're putting their spin on it. So when they hit that turnaround, the Hush Little Baby right there, they go that, let's see if I can fit it in here. And once they come around the second time, they go to G down to E minor, A minor, C, and then I think back to the E minor, and then hit the B7 again, right? So these are all really good chords to know as far as just the language of how a minor tune can switch, because when they do like the Hush Little Baby in that line, it's very much switching to the relative major. Exact same notes, just the emphasis of things are being sort of centered around a G major sound, right? That would be sort of like a 1, 6, 2, 4, and then back to the 6, which kind of then takes over. You kind of have two home keys. So it's, when you come back to the E minor, it feels more like we've returned to the 1 of the relative minor, right? And that's the 5. So that B7 wouldn't naturally occur in the G major scale, but that's what makes that tension so important. And we're going to see how that plays into the soloing, because it brings in that leading tone right there that is not in G major or the typical E minor scale, but you bring in the third of the B, that D sharp. That's that awesome tension that really wants to go back to the E, right? Now it does the second ending to the G, E minor, A minor, C, E minor. Nice. Billy leads this one off. That minor 9. So that opening part of the solo, I'm just going to stop it there. The really hits that minor, that 9 of the that I keep talking about. So he really leans into that. And then it's mainly about the rhythm of his phrasing there, because after that, he's playing a string of notes that are kind of coming straight out of just that box 1 E minor pentatonic up there, right? But as and that's something that's really critical to developing like phrasing ideas, where if you have this rhythmic kind of nugget that's just sort of the DNA of a set of phrases, that can be the thing that drives the character, the personality of it. So that boom, bam, boom, boom, bam, it's sort of this kind of like triplet kind of like thing. And then you just put, you know, simple notes that are coming right out of that sort of collection. But you could do that and just sort of like, let's say if you had a loop, I just so happen to have one. Let's say if you had a loop with, oh, I don't know, like a bass line. Just playing that same rhythm, just drill it in until you're tired of it, but you can play it. Then when you switch to something else, it has this nice kind of sense of release. So you have this tension and release that's happening not just within the notes you're choosing, but how you're spacing them out, right? That's kind of fun. Some of these things that you would think on guitar, like a little quick aside here, there are times when you're playing something that doesn't make logical sense, but is fun and it sounds good, which is the beauty of music. And by that, I mean, sometimes when we practice, we think, well, why would I want to slide up to a note that I then hit lower in a different spot? Because it sounds like that. It sounds cool, right? It's kind of like a Chuck Berry thing, like you can be bending to it, you can be sliding up to it. So look for ways that you can find like more interesting, like just sort of splashes of color within the usual pentatonic. And that's why a lot of us teachers are like try to break up the pattern of just playing the scale, because it's not intended to just be an up and down linear type of thing. And in this case, it's kind of fun to hit two notes that are the same. And it's the rhythmic aspect of it that makes it memorable and catchy. And this right here is another note that we don't have in the typical E minor pentatonic. So if we scratch out these and we just look at our E minor pentatonic, so far we've added to it that minor 9, which really sounds good up here on that first string. And then if you imagine that up on the 12th fret, really sings, and they're both reaching for that a lot. Uh-oh, my iPad might have just died. We might have just lost, I think we just lost the ability to have the fretboard there, which is wild. We just got to fly without the instruments. All natural, but look at this. Ooh, I like that. So now with the addition of that C, we're going to get the full E minor scale. And the place that you want to emphasize that note is when we hit that A minor, which happens plenty in this song. Octaves, love that. So he's just playing with some different flavors here. That's something that you could just get the feel for that. So I guess the thing that I'm coming back to a lot is, like, if you take any one of these things that sounds like just a tiny moment that happens in one of these solos and just make a meal out of it and just play it in all sorts of different spots, have fun with it, make mistakes, which I'm very prone to do. There's just that triplet pull off. And just put it wherever you're comfortable with your scales. And what you're doing is bringing in some chromaticism without necessarily having to think from a textbook place. You're just like, I just wanted to sound like a kind of a swooning, like. And then you just, when you dash it back in, it's just like a tiny flavor. After you've done it a million times, it'll have that clarity of like, oh, I'll just sort of put one of those here and one of those there, and then I'll switch to octaves, which is just my way of saying, like, I hear them playing with the many, many hours they've put in to find these different tricks and moves. Takes over the rhythm and Marcus is going. Octaves. Again, that 9, right? So the thing with the octaves that often trips us up is that we get it in the sort of the low area first, right? Because the 6th string and the 5th string allows us to have that same shape of like the sort of closer together spacing, just 2 frets apart. It's just sort of built into the chords we know. It's when we get into these top strings, right? The 1st and the 3rd and the 2nd and the 4th that it's a bigger space. So that's why you see Marcus is using his pinky, because that's just. And the trick that you have to do is get comfortable with stroking through it and making sure you're not getting that middle string to do anything other than just be a really nice, because then when that percussive muted string is in there, it creates a really satisfying kind of chunky sound, that's what you want. That's that leading tone, right? D sharp up to E. Really on the B7, you want to aim for that D sharp, that's that 3rd of B. Here on that's the C that you want to put on top of that A minor, and then I like that one. That's one of my little just sort of dumb party tricks that it's sort of out of tune, but I like it. So listen for it when it comes around, when we ride on that B7. So if you're in like a minor pentatonic, you know that there's a big 5 chord coming up. And then you got to get back into like sort of playing stuff that sounds more resolved. If you want that, you could sort of stay in the crunchy out there place. In addition to the minor 9, he's also doing this that sort of blues note, or the blue note that we hear about a lot. And it's in there and we use it a lot, but really emphasizing it as a discrete, separate passing tone versus the... So both of them are bending less, and maybe Billy wouldn't be bending as much as Marcus anyway, but you'll hear, listen just for these moments of the chromatic that Marcus is bringing forward throughout his solo. Right there. Again there. There it is again. Not sure what exactly he's doing there. It's great. Ending. E minor. A minor. C. Oh yeah. So just like I said, I'm not gonna say I called it, but those Mysterioso chords, they both went for a different version of like the E minor 9. This one is like the saddest chord you'll ever see. Sorry that the fretboard died out, but so basically you're gonna be holding what looks like a B minor 7, and then just lift off any of the, just hold the B, that one right there, like the shell of it. Then you have an open E, open G, and then that open low E, and you get this really nice, and that's that minor 9 there, right? So it's a minor 7 with a 9, the 9 right there, 9 right there. And I think Marcus is going up to something sort of similar up there. He's like, let's hear his last chord, but they're both going for that type of like ooh chord, right? Every weekday, my members and I go live together for about 15 or 20 minutes, and I'm literally your coach. We do a warm-up, I run you through some new riffs that you can start using, and then we just jam for a bit. And you can be on the other side of the screen doing your own thing, or you can be commenting and checking in with people and have a good time. You could also watch any of the workouts at your leisure. We have over 100 of them recorded now, and you can search them by topic, so you can zero in on something that you're looking to get better at and go deep. For more information, just head over to guitarfriendtim.com. The link is in the description. Thanks.